magnanimous he is when he bags a win? Do you measure a man by how he treats his peers and equals, or how he treats his subordinates? Do you measure a man by what he started, or by what he finished? Do you measure a man by how he handled his finest moments, or by how he handled his lowest moments? If you want to know the true measure of a man, watch what he does with power, how he handles his opponents, how he treats his wife and family, and what he does with his influence. But fundamentally, as Martin Luther King Jr. taught us, and I quote, "The true measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of convenience and comfort, but where he stands in times of challenge and difficulties." End of quote. In other words, the true measure of a man is how he behaves when misfortune hits. And the question before us today, who was Kibaki the man? How do you measure a man who was sworn in as president in a wheelchair? How do you measure a man who suffered ill health during his first year of his presidency, and in his lowest moments, he did not give up, but he soldiered on? How do you measure a man under whose watch Kenya experienced our darkest moment in 2007, yet in this moment, President Kibaki shook the hand of his opponent and invited him to form government with him on a 50-50 basis, despite opposition from some of his own supporters? Kibaki, the man, had an incredible gift of tolerance. He had the ability to take in pressure and pain without showing distress. And this is why he was known as a man of few words. From his 50 or so years of active politics, he learned not to rush into judgment and decisions. He learned to lay in wait until the swollen river had found its course. When moments were dark, he chose to be the light. When reason was scarce, he became the voice of reason. And when hope was down, he encouraged us all to exercise the gift of long-suffering. And if a man is not measured by what he started, but by what he finished, then the record must reflect that the Honorable Mwai Kibaki finished very strong. The end of Kibaki the man can only be summarized by the words of Apostle Paul when he said this of his own life, and I quote, "I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith." This too must be recorded in our books of history as the finishing line of the Honorable Mwai Kibaki. He fought the good fight, finished the race, and he without doubt kept the faith. So, Your Excellencies, fellow Kenyans, ladies and gentlemen, turning to Kibaki the leader, as we have heard from the story of his life and times, as far back as July of 1974, the Honorable Mwai Kibaki was named by Time magazine as one of the 150 men and women who would become new world leaders. 6 years later, in 1997, and 9 years later, in 1981, the same magazine named him as one amongst 100 people with remarkable leadership qualities. So the world had noticed his leadership promise. But his leadership abilities were not only obvious,